joining us at Las Vegas Hospitality Evolution. As you well know, as if you've been viewing our podcast, you know that we talk about Las Vegas from a point of view of two professors in hospitality, Dr. Thomas Peacock and myself, Dr. Lonnie Wright. Dr. Thomas Peacock was vice president of the Luxor, the Mandalay Bay general manager of the Hacienda, so he brings a lot to the table. But let me just tell you, we are so honored to have this individual, this iconic individual in our studio today. We talk about evolution of Las Vegas. Well, this gentleman was the general of that. He had a great team. But he, without a doubt, was the general to all those great nuances, to all the evolution that Las Vegas has occurred, the reinventing of this town. That was their job. That was the convention authority's job. Las Vegas Authority and Convention Center job. Now, I probably said that wrong. And Rossi, you will correct me. The icons of Las Vegas Authority. We're going to talk about that. So, without any further ado, the gentleman that we are so honored to have here, we've had some very iconic individuals that we've talked about, but I am more excited about you than all of them. Not putting down anyone, but because you had your hand on the growth, the all of the demographics, the psychographics of Las Vegas. You were a part of that team that helped reinvent Las Vegas and all of the things that this podcast is all about. We want to catalog those individuals that made a difference, that opened up jobs, that now the town is 3 million. You know, I know you started way back in the early 50s. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Rossi Ralenkotter.
Oh, thank you very much for those very kind words. And I'm here because I love to talk about my favorite topic, which is Las Vegas, and an opportunity to talk about how we grew and expanded and reinvented ourselves time and time again to go from being a West Coast gaming destination to the most exciting destination in the world. But it took a lot of people, a lot of effort, a lot of teamwork to get there, and I'm happy to be here.
Well, I wanted to start off with this picture here that we will make it a part of our presentation. You can see this picture, and our guests will be able to see this picture. Can you tell me about this picture that was so historical?
Well, that was the picture of the groundbreaking for the original convention center. That was our first evolution as a destination, reinventing ourselves from that West Coast gaming destination to being a convention destination. And the one gentleman in there, Bud Albright, he was a elected official, and he got together the chambers of commerce. We got all the hotel people together. He got all the hotel people together. Herb McDonald, who was a famous PR person in Las Vegas and who was part of a lot of different successes. He was the original president of Las Vegas Events, and Herb brought a lot to the table. But it was Bud who said 5 cents on every room rented out, or 5%, as the funding mechanism for what they were calling in those days the Clark County Fair and Recreation Board. Because as we talk further, you'll see that a lot of that money went to the community for parks, recreations, development of the destination itself. Mm-hmm. But that was the real origin of that, and they broke ground at that site. And you can see by the picture, there's millions in our future. Well, they really didn't realize that there were billions in our future. But that was a very critical time for Las Vegas.
Well, that is so wonderful. And and it started off really, really strong. Dr. Peacock? you
Well, no,
like
I
to
was
say
just the
something?
picture that I wanted to talk about is this one. This is the Beatles come to Las Vegas. Who brought them here? How did that happen?
Well, in fact, Stan Irwin brought them there
I
from
know
from the Sahara Hotel, and
Yes.
and that was the first tour for the Beatles in the United States, and it was the smallest arena that they appeared in, was Las Vegas, but they originally were supposed to be at the original Sahara Hotel.
It's too small.
And the hotel people were saying, well, no one's want to go to see the Beatles. It's just going to be kids, teenagers, and again, gaming was the number one issue for people to come to town. Well, little did they know that the moms of those teenagers and some of the dads wanted to go see the Beatles too, and so they were overwhelmed with requests for tickets. Stan Irwin went to the convention center and said, we've got to be able to get an extra date. Well, the Beatles were already booked through that tour, that summer tour, and so they added 2 shows, an afternoon show and an evening show, and they were both sold out. I was fortunate enough, my dad worked at the Sands Hotel in the casino, and so I got to go to both shows. I had a different date for each show, which was fun
Lucky
too.
man.
But yes, in fact, we had a dedication of an anniversary of the Beatles years ago, and we picked the spot where the stage was, and commemorated that. But that's how that occurred. But over the years, the convention center, it takes time, anywhere from 5, 7 to 10 years to book certain conventions and certain meetings to a city or a destination. And so there was a lot of times where the convention center itself was a civic center. So there was roller skating on Friday night. You had the JC State Fair was at the convention center. The ironic thing, though, is that one of the changes in the destination, when you look at us over the years, that we were primarily a domestic destination, but
Yes.
our first convention at the convention center was the World Congress of Flight, an international convention. So it brought people from all over the world who are involved in commercial airplanes, military aircraft, and so forth. And so when you see those pictures, you see the Atlas rocket in the parking lot. There were aircraft. There was the X-1 jet. I mean, there was just.
My goodness.
But
Jeez.
we were a place that the world came to, and so that was part of it. And then it was used for Rebel basketball over the years when
The Rotunda.
I graduated high school from there.
there you go. So there, another tie-in. But that was part of it, contributing back to the community, which has been part of also what we have done over the years, working with the governmental entities and so forth.
Now the acronyms, you started off by saying that what was the acronym then, the name of the convention?
It was the Clark County Fair and Recreation Board.
And now it is?
Well, and then we changed to the Las Vegas Convention Authority. And so I came along in 1973, and it took me a while to convince the board of directors that we needed to change our name because our 2 major market segments were conventions, meetings, and visitors. So we needed to get the V into our title, which was visitors. And so then we became the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, which we are today,
Yes.
LVCVA.
Yes. I also wanted to ask you, during your time, there were some macro changes in the business environment, whether it was economic downturns in the economy or the October 1 event. How did you and your team deal with that type of, let's talk about the atrocities, let's talk about the economic downturn. How did you spin that and still make it exciting for people to come here to forget about those problems?
Well, the first challenge, and I wasn't around for that, but it was part of what drove the convention center to be built, was all the hotels that were built in the 50s. The Sands, the Sahara Hotel, the Dunes, all of those hotels that they came online, and that's why we needed to get the convention business in. But what we did was over the years, and when I came in to be hired at the convention center, I was hired as the marketing research analyst. Now, we didn't know who our customers were. We didn't know where they really came from. We didn't even know the total count of visitors because we didn't have any research. And so I brought that background. I went to Arizona State University, majored in marketing, emphasis on research and analytics. And so I was able to, with my team, put together a program where we developed a visitor profile study, which tells us, and is being used today, the demographics and psychographics of the visitors to our destination. So we knew how they got here, how long they gambled, what were their activities, and so forth. So that was critical. So this was like 73, 74. And then knowing the numbers of people and where they came from. It was easy in the beginning because majority of our people drove in, 70% were Southern California. But as we grew, you needed to have air service and the rest of the United States. And so I came along 73, and the first challenge we had was the first gasoline shortage.
My goodness.
Not only the increase in price, which we are seeing today, but also the shortage of gasoline, even in odd days, to be able to get your cars fueled up. And so that was the first one. Well, what happened was that the Convention Authority, LVCVA, we had the information. And Governor O'Callaghan was governor at the time, and they had a conference in Louisiana to go over the different types of challenges that the resort industries were facing. Well, we had all the statistics, so we knew kind of how to position ourselves. The most important thing we learned from all that, it wasn't a matter of the shortage of gasoline. It was the uncertainty of whether you could get gasoline, could you take a vacation to drive someplace, would you be able to drive home, those kinds of things. And so we had to put that research, which showed us that any campaign that you have, anything that you do from a destination standpoint, needs to be built on solid research, solid analytics. And that's what we did all the way through, whether it was a recession, the Great Recession that we had, the October 1st incidents, 9/11. That's what we applied to it. And so we were prepared, and we were doing research all the time. And the bigger our market became, the more research that we had to accumulate. And so we increased the staff at the convention center. We also worked very closely with our advertising partners, R&R partners, who are still the advertising agency of record for the LVCVA. And we knew that we had to make sure that we were giving not only our marketing people the correct information, but the industry. And so we became that very solid partner because they know their customer, but we needed to give them the overview of who these people are. How do you drive their need to come to Las Vegas, whether it's a meeting or a convention? And so that was part of how we dealt with it, and we still do that. And currently, with what's happening in Europe right now, those same principles are used. You have to stay very close to what's happening. It's a day-to-day situation that you have to analyze. You have to be quick to turn as quick as you can because there's a tremendous amount of competition, not only in the United States, but throughout the world. We're competing against every single destination in the world as well as the United States. And so without that research, it would be very difficult to do the programs that we have.
Look, we used to live by this little document that you produce.
Right.
And you can go online and get this very important, quick summary of who our people are.
Right, but imagine trying to put together a marketing campaign or a marketing program without that type of information. You're behind the eight ball.
Exactly.
You're at a disadvantage. And so that gave us great amount of ammunition to use and to create and formulate campaigns and so forth.
This is what I want our viewers to know, that this phenomenon called Las Vegas, Nevada just didn't happen through osmosis. It was a lot of thought, a lot of individuals like yourself that contributed to, again, the reinvention of this town. We went from gambling, that nuance called gambling, and then we used the word gaming when we started proliferating throughout the United States, especially in the Bible Belt. It would have been a hard industry to call it the gambling industry. Right. And then with Circus opening up, we went from 8 to 80, with the kids coming in. And now, with all the sports, now we're the sports and entertainment capital.
Right.
How did you see this coming, that we would start getting a lot of sports here?
Well, we always were a sports destination.
Right.
You look at us in the 50s, we were the boxing capital of the world.
Yes.
I mean, championships fights here were usually almost once a month. All the great fighters, all the divisions fought here, and so we were we were known for the fight game. We also had the Tournament of Champions, which was at the old Desert Inn golf course where the Wynn Resort is right now. And they paid off $10,000. They brought the money out in a wheelbarrow, 10,000 silver dollar bills, and they just dumped it on the green. It was part of the tour, but it got more exposure for Las Vegas. So we had that ingrained in who we were. And then the university came along, the Rebel basketball program, the football program, all of that. But it was a build on process. And the one thing that Las Vegas has always been able to do is that we are a can-do city. The people who live here and work here, the politicians, the resort property owners and executives, the business people are all focused on how can we make this a better destination, not only for our visitors, but for all of us who live here. The other side of that Fair and Recreation Board thing is that at one time, close to 85% of the parks that were funded in Clark County were done through room tax. And so funds for Allegiant Stadium, room tax dollars. The original Las Vegas ballpark downtown, which is now we have the one out in Summerlin where the Aviators played, funded by room tax. And so we've had a hand in that, sponsoring sporting events to be here. You know, it was very difficult to get some of these groups to come to Las Vegas because of the image that we had. Part of the challenge we had on the meeting side, that there were some meeting groups and convention groups who wouldn't come here because we did have gambling, because they thought they would be, as delegates, criticized for coming to a gaming destination. And so we had to overcome that. But it's that can-do attitude, and we have been able to successfully reinvent the destination as we go along. But if you look at how it's been built on those blocks of very strong market segments. And so now you can divide us into a variety of market segments and kind of go into a little bit of the essence of our brand, which will bring me back to the what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. But we went, when I first came to the convention center, we were a sales organization. We were salespeople. We had great salespeople. But we evolved from a sales organization to a marketing organization. From that point, we evolved from a marketing organization to a marketing branding company. And so we had to find out what was the essence of the brand of Las Vegas. Why were we so popular? I mean, I used to sit and look at some of the statistics, and I said, well, when we get to 75,000 rooms, we can't have that. We blew by 75,000. We blew by 100,000. Now it's around 160,000 with more to come.
Yes.
And so what was the driver here? And so you just look at your personal life. You know, why do you buy the brand of car that you buy? What you know, your clothes, your shoes, products that you use. You know, there's a thought process. And so we went out and did over 3,500 focus groups where we brought together visitors and non-visitors, convention delegates, and just the overall visitor who came here for meetings and so forth, to get what was the magic of Las Vegas, the essence of the brand. Mm-hmm. And so when we got it all together and we put it up on a big whiteboard, and it was like, wow, look at all the things that people said. It was like unbelievable. And so that was great, because that meant that we appealed to so many different types of people. Absolutely. Which we still do. But the negative was that how do you develop a campaign over when you have so many reasons to be here? You know, which one is the most important? So we went over and over and over again with the people at R&R Advertising, Rob Dondero, Billy Vasiliadis being two key players there. Billy owns the company. And we said, okay, what is it makes us? And we came up with this 2 words, adult freedom. And what that means is that we as a destination, we as a community say, you're welcome to come to our city and have a great time. We want you to do that. We welcome you. In fact, there aren't any clocks in Las Vegas, so you don't want to know what time it is. And so that welcoming and have a great time, have a fun time. And that was what came up with what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. And it's iconic. It's the number one tourism slogan of all time, because it matches the brand, the essence of our brand, and it continues. And as you see all those different segments, you can go back in history and see how they kind of played into that into that role. And now we've always had fantastic entertainment. We had great entertainment in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. We still have that. Entertainers want to be here. People want to see those entertainers. Now we have the venues that can hold the big concerts, the big entertainment, the big entertainers. We've got facilities that we can bring in sporting events we never even thought about being able to do. We've got the Knights. We've got the Raiders. Hopefully we'll have baseball and basketball soon. I'm a big baseball fan.
I was going to save this to the end, but I've got to explain why I don't have my tie on. I want you to take a look at this, Rossi. You know what this is? This is Formula One.
Right.
And we're talking about Formula One coming back. That is international.
Yes.
Talk on that, because we had it here before at Caesars.
We had it at Caesars, and it was, it was a difficult course. But take that, and we got NASCAR.
Yes.
So we got the NASCAR, which is, one of the premier sporting events in the country. Not only do we have one race, we have two races. And that's because they were so successful here. And so those customers equate with coming to Las Vegas for NASCAR as well as enjoying Las Vegas. Because after the races are over, there's no other town in the world that can entertain you like Las Vegas can.
Exactly.
And that is the key element. Look at March Madness, which we are almost finished with, but March Madness. Everybody's flocking to Las Vegas to come here because you can bet the games, you can have parties with the games, you can bring the guys and the girls who are on the teams that put together the betting stuff that they have to cheer their team on. We've got enough facilities that we can do that. The Legion Stadium is making things wide open for us. Final Four is right around the corner.
That's it.
Once we get the regional, the Final Four, the Formula One, they've been around town for the last 12, 13 years looking for a way to do it. I think that there's enough enthusiasm there to give them what they want, which is a race that includes part of the strip. And that's a key for them, not only for their fans, but also for the TV experience. And so that's going to be coming. So, but again, it's built on the great hospitality. Nobody can entertain you in the hotels like our hotels. They are built to serve customers. The people who work in those hotels are there to make sure you have the best experience you can possibly have.
And they deliver. Yes.
And we have always had that, and a lot of destinations don't, but we have had that. And so it is a big team community effort. Everybody is a contributor. No matter what you do in Las Vegas, you are an important part of that team. You need to wear that brand on your chest and say, I work in Las Vegas. I'm here to make sure you have a great time, whether it's a meeting, special event, just playing golf. You need to come to our city, and we want you to come back again, again, and again. And so that's been a key. And you look at the entertainment lineup we have now. I mean, the entertainers are knocking on the hotel guys' doors saying, can I have a residency? Can I have a residency? Yes. So, and on a small scale, we had that in the 50s with the Rat Pack and with all the entertainers that we had that came into town. That was a baby boomer crowd, but that was, again, one of the stepping stones to get to what we have every day. There's a form of entertainment that anybody would want to see in Las Vegas 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. We provide that, and that's that essence of the brand itself.
How did you feel, speaking of a macro change, how did it impact you to see, because of COVID-19, the town that we never would think would close down? How did you feel personally when you saw that?
Sad, very sad, very sad. It brought back two memories. One was the original MGM fire, which happened at the old MGM, and then the fire, which was not as severe as the one at MGM that happened at the International, the Hilton. Right. And they closed those hotel properties. Now, there weren't as many hotel properties, but walking out of the convention center and looking down and seeing the MGM closed, looking at the International Hilton closed, that was a sad time. And we had gone through some labor disputes over the years, and those had an impact on the destination and the community, but nothing like shutting down the hotels. Nothing like that. I mean, we had the airport closed during 9/11 because of no flying. But it was sad, and the sad part about it is that, and when you look at the future of where we need to be and what we need to do, is that it has changed all of us. As people who live in the world, we have changed. We have been impacted by that. The travel industry, tremendous impact. We from time to time would go to Washington to talk about the value of tourism and the jobs and so forth. And that really demonstrated how the travel industry impacts so many people's lives, small business people, the diversity of employment and ownership in the travel business. It can't be duplicated in any industry. And so that was sad. But now we're going to have to look at, okay, what is the decision-making tree that people are going to look at to pick a place to visit? What are they going to look for? Safety, security, cleanliness, all of those things are going to be a part of why people go to a destination. You've got to, and you've got to prove to people that you are really and sincerely concerned about them when they come to your community, no matter what is going on. And so that's going to be a challenge for the destination. And so that's our next. Okay, how do we reinvent ourselves? And we're already starting to do that. That happened. That wouldn't happen when the COVID was at its height, and the precautions and so forth, and being open and so forth. But that'll be not only for Las Vegas, but the travel industry as a whole. How you fly places, the transportation infrastructure, which is another huge thing that's important to travel. We need to have, in the United States, we need to have a interconnected travel system that goes from trains to planes to buses to ports to, at some point in time, a spaceport. We've got to think 25, 30, 35 years into the future of how people are going to get from point A to point B. COVID proved that. This gasoline shortage is going to show that, or not shortage, but increase in price. Hopefully it won't be a shortage. And so those are how you
Rossi,
look at those things.
You spoke about the airport, and we're talking about an airport south of here in Jean at some point, and the bullet train. Is there any movement on that stuff?
In fact, McCarran has been working on that ever since it was dedicated for a second airport for the county itself. And they've done a lot of environmental studies and to make sure that when it's ready to go, they'll be able to get under construction and do that. There'll be two parts of it. Do you put the domestic carriers at Reed International, or do you put them out at the other airport? The other side of that is how do you get them from the airport to town, or to maybe even a connecting flight? And so that's going to be a challenge on the transportation side. But eventually, the airspace, the availability of airspace for flights and so forth, will demand another airport, because you need that airspace to be able to take off and land for those destinations. And if you've been watching the news in the last probably 30 days, the number of returning international flights as well as new international flights. So the international hub concept and the international side of that's going to get larger, as well as cargo. And so, but McCarran's they're ready and able to go forward with that, and it's going to start getting traction, and we'll have to figure that out, as well as how do we move all the people in town from the Strip to downtown to the airport, to the new airport to go down. Well, that's already working at the convention center right now.
Yes.
So
Dr. Peacock had some guests on that was talking about transportation. You want to share?
Our two, Maria Tamayo, who worked with you at the convention center, the parking people downtown, and I think it was Jackie Robinson, who is trying to get that hotel between the Sahara and next door to them. And it is an important concept to move people around town. We're the only big city that doesn't have a high-speed transportation system.
Right. Well, when the original concept of the monorail was proposed back in the 70s, and it didn't happen, and then we eventually got the one we did get, but it wasn't able to expand. But it was originally designed to go down the Strip, the university, the airport, go downtown, and then the links off of that into the community so commuters could go to work. But that didn't materialize. I headed up the first annual transportation convention meeting in Washington, D.C. about 10 years ago called Connecting America Through Travel. And that is the system approach that I talked about. And so we need to look at Las Vegas from a system standpoint, and how do we move all of us through town to get to work, to get to school, to get to the university, to get to the hotels, downtown area, because there's going to be building farther and farther out. There's going to be more hotel properties coming online.
Yes.
And so because of that, we need to figure out those problems too. And so again, that will be another jump forward for the community itself to rally around.
Dr. Peacock, he taught for UNLV in Singapore, and I kind of want to shift to the Far East now. Now with Macau having gaming, and we were receiving a lot of people coming to Las Vegas, how do we get that Far East market back? How do we market them back to Las Vegas when they have everything, the Cotai Strip, we have the Las Vegas Strip? How do we get them back, or are we making an effort to get them back here? Because I know that a lot of our international guests, they spend a lot more money than our domestic guests. So that was when Macau opened up. Did that hurt us, or was it a challenge? Can you speak to that?
I'll start off with there's only one brand Las Vegas, okay,
Right.
in the world.
That's
Only one brand.
Okay.
Okay. A little bit of history. So when they legalized gambling in Atlantic City in 1978, they did something else which was probably more important to the destination than just legalizing gaming in Atlantic City. East Coast newspaper said Las Vegas is going to lose all their East Coast business because of Atlantic City and this and that and so on and
I
so
remember
forth.
that.
But at the same time, they opened up the skies in the United States. They got rid of the Civil Aeronautics Board, where you used to have to go and get approval for adding a route or adding a new carrier. So we had 7 carriers before deregulation. So it was deregulation of the airline. So free entry, as long as you had the money and the planes and the pilots, you could do that. In a year, we went from 7 carriers to 19 carriers. So that opened up all new types of markets, both one-stop, non-stop for Las Vegas. The second part was that Atlantic City just created new customers for us. It opened up us to more people, frequency of getting there and so on and so forth. And I always looked at it kind of like Major League Baseball. There's Major League cities, and then there's minor league cities. And so we were building up a team of new visitors to Las Vegas when Atlantic City opened up their gaming, because gaming became available across the country, and you're going to see more and more of it. The sports betting was probably the best thing that ever happened to us, because that stigma is gone, and so
Everywhere.
now the sports people that were a place, but places like Macau. It's competitive. Everything is competitive, but because we will provide a better experience from the destination standpoint, we believe that we can continue to draw from those parts of the world. We will continue to be able to motivate people to come to Las Vegas. Millions and millions of people in the world have never been to our destination. And we have a lot of other things. You can go to Hoover Dam. They've never been there. They go to Grand Canyon. There's more flights to the Grand Canyon from Las Vegas than there are from any place else.
Big Canyon just got 3 inches of snow.
There you go. Hey, listen.
Well, today.
Hey, listen. There are some days where you can go skiing up in Lee Canyon and go water skiing at Lake Mead the same day. So it becomes, that's another side. But so you have to look at it from that standpoint, and again, check your market segments, check the market, see what the competition's doing, what are they adding, is there something else that they're doing that we may want to emulate from a destination standpoint. And so as long as we stay focused and stay research driven, both from the hotel side as well as the destination side and the community side, we're going to take on those competitors, and we're going to beat them all.
I know when we were bringing in, the first wave of international guests, we had to kind of learn their psychographics to be able to serve them better. I know the MGM, what was that story about the MGM, Dr. Peacock? They had the big lion head out front.
A feng shui issue. A feng shui issue where, to the Asian.
All right.
The story. Tell us, Rossi.
Yeah, well, you had feng shui. You had to make sure that you had the menus correct. You had to make sure that you knew the customs. and everything for those customers.
Yes.
But I'll give you a good, real quick story. So we were going after nonstop from UK, and Richard Branson, Virgin Airlines, was just starting up, and so we went after them for 5-6 years, and they kept telling us we can't sell the front end of the flight. We were saying, wait a minute, we're Las Vegas. We'll sell the front end of the airplane, because that's the most profitable part of an aircraft moving from point A to point B. He wouldn't believe it. Okay, fine. So finally, we got an opportunity to make a presentation to him. Now, knowing Richard Branson, very flamboyant person, he said, okay, well, you'll meet at my house. I said, okay, fine. So took my staff. They picked us up in a Rolls Royce. Now, it was before computers, and so this was a slide presentation to Richard Branson in his living room to convince him that we had the statistics to show that we're going to fill the front of your plane. Voila, we got nonstop flight. He came on, he was waving the flag when the first landing. But you have to worry about those customs from those countries, and that's all part of your research to make sure you're taking care of the customer's needs. Again, it goes back to that needs assessment. But feng shui is very important.
Yeah. You don't walk through a lion's mouth from Asia.
Right, you don't.
But, Dr. Wright, this is a great evolutionary story. But there were bumps, whether or not. I'm talking about owners, Bill Bennett, Sheldon Adelson, both had issues. How did that ever get resolved? Obviously, everybody now has almost a small convention space. But what was that story?
Well, it was one of meetings and conventions versus the individual traveler.
Right.
The Bennett
Independent travelers,
Yeah, so that was part of that. And the gaming side of, because a convention delegate or a meeting person is at their meetings all day. And so the discussion had to become one of, okay, how do we fill the entire town with a good mix of that? And the more we built convention halls and we expanded hours, and as the hotels started to do the same thing, there was enough business for everyone. And that was also a time when rooms were starting to be added, and there was a lot of competition. But it was more the competitive conversation about what type of customer are we trying to bring in. When you look at 43 million people a year, which is what we got prior to COVID, you need every market segment there is out there, every demographic segment that's out there. The diversity side needs to be a good mix, because we need to have a good mix of people. We want to have them have a good experience. But it was really that kind of we just want them in our hotel, and we don't want them anyplace else. And so
exactly, we want them to play here, right, and not go sit in the convention.
Right, but when you look at the research, they average 5-6 casinos while they're in town. So they're not staying in one place; they move around.
You were here in the mother of all conventions, Comdex. That when I was at the Hacienda, we were selling rooms for $14 a night. Comdex drops in, it's $170.
Right.
It was incredible. We were an outlier. But Comdex was Sheldon's, and he knew conventions were important.
Right. And he came to the convention center because there was that discussion about, the room rate not being where it should be, with all that number of people in town. And he said, then just, and the gaming wasn't where it should be. Then he said, then just raise your rates. And he continued to increase the size of the show. It was the biggest trade show in the world.
It was,
and we kept adding space. In fact, he built, in conjunction with us, that temporary structure, which is now the North Hall, as part of that experience. And so all of a sudden, now you've got 125, 130,000 people who are going to be doing all kinds of stuff when the show closed. So it was a matter of numbers coming in,
finally,
and diversity of the demographic and diversity of the mix of the customers.
I think it finally worked out. They got it.
Got it.
We need conventions.
Yeah. Well, it was just like when
mice.
It was just like when Mr. Wynn opened up Treasure Island, and everybody said that we were going to become a Disneyland and go after children. No, that was not the purpose of that. But there were rumors that Disney was looking at land in Las Vegas, which who knows put that rumor out. But if you look at the demographics too, or the statistics, not everybody gambles when they come to Las Vegas. There are people who bring children to Las Vegas. There are things for children to do. I raised my family here.
Yes.
We've got 5 children, 10 grandchildren, and so it's a place. I grew up here. I got here when I was 4 years old, and so we are this great, vibrant community. And there are things for people who want to bring their families.
Speaking of us growing up here, I was born at Nellis Air Force Base in 1952. And when we were in high school, our biggest joy was to just, Circus wasn't around.
Right.
Our biggest joy was to drive down Fremont.
Right.
Drive down Fremont. So we were, as locals, became a viable market when we started adding all of these things for our guests, for our visitors.
Right.
I wanted to ask you this question. The gaming dollar versus points of sale dollar. The gaming dollar at one time drove Las Vegas, and now points of sales, now that we have these destination mega resorts, and of course, idealistically, they would like to have everyone to stay and spend all their money there. But we have all of these other areas that has kind of put the gaming dollar in second place to points of sale dollar. Can you speak to that?
And the gaming dollar still drives the train. Okay.
Okay.
That's the driver.
Okay.
That engine makes it all work. All the things that have been added adds to the experience: the restaurants, the entertainment, the shopping, the attractions. All of that is part of why we are driving 43 million people a year, and you need to have that. But gaming is always going to be there because we do gaming better than anybody else, because we have people that work in these hotels and casinos who know how to take care of a customer. So it's always going to be the main driver. But because the destination had to evolve, we just couldn't be a gaming destination forever. We had to add the other amenities that our customers told us they wanted to see and wanted to experience. And so that will always be the case.
Isn't it amazing that literally, when you look at this is a picture of the convention center being built, right?
Right.
What do you see around it? Desert. Right?
Right.
When I went to school, just to talk about how fast you and I saw this town grow, when I went to UNLV, I stayed in Tonopah Dorm. You could literally see from the first floor all the way over to the Boulevard Mall.
Right.
Does that blow your mind?
Hey, listen, a high-rise was the Sahara Hotel.
Yes.
The high-rise used to be the Sky Room at the Desert Inn in the 50s.
Right.
I mean, you're right, there was nothing but desert and a long distance between properties, but you could see forever, and it really did change.
And why didn't we buy more land? Why didn't we get into it, Rossi? I had a chance.
Well, I have no
All of
idea.
us feel that way,
I mean, in hindsight, it just, but it just evolved into this great thing, and it just kept on. That engine just kept on going and going and going, and yeah.
Well, I tell you that going back to the bullet train, what do you, in your estimation, when do you think that will happen?
Well, there's a couple of companies that are trying to do the one link, which would be Southern California to up to
San
right
Francisco?
outside the pass.
Barstow, no.
Well, up to
Victorville?
Victorville. And then they would have a terminal there, and then they would bus the people into Las Vegas. The other one is that to have it all completely through. The other side of that is that California is now building the western part of Sacramento, San Francisco, LA, San Diego, Palm Springs, and the hope would be that would connect to the Victorville hookup and then get service to Las Vegas that way. But it's putting that completed system together. How does it all work? And so there's still some bugs to figure out, still some challenges of how that works.
California approved that. The Southern California to San Francisco link 10 years ago. I don't know. It just is a ongoing process. Too many political entities are involved in it.
Right.
Sig Rogich mentioned that he's been working on that, just the Barstow or the Victorville run for 10 years. And is it ever going to get done? That's not a question.
Well, it's the same thing with the road. I mean, there was some discussion at one point in time of building a truck-only highway from Southern California.
There you go.
going
That could be.
But there again, it goes back to that connection of all types of transportation.
Speaking of our entertainment, I see this. This is Caesar's Palace, and that was the gentleman that was headlining there. Now we have a different group of headliners that's catering to the millennials.
Right.
Not so much the baby boomers and not the great generation before us, but now we're looking at what are some of the millennial.
Well, Dennis Bono interviewed Rich Little, and Rich Little, his entertainment is fading because the people that he imitates, the millennials don't have a clue.
Right.
Jimmy Stewart, I asked my grandkids the other day, tell me about who Jimmy Stewart is. I don't know. James Cagney?
Right.
Don't know. Humphrey Bogart? Didn't know.
Right.
So there has been an evolution in entertainment, definitely.
Not only in the people that are headliners, but this type of entertainment, because we're so international. Now we're looking at entertainment that international people can look at. Everyone around this world understands when an elephant disappears. You don't have to tell them that. Everyone around this world, that's why boxing is so big, understand two guys beating each other up. But when you start getting into different things of being able to speak the language and that sort of thing, now the cirque shows become very big because now everyone, domestic and international, can go. It's visually, sound, and it's tremendous. Can you speak to?
Yeah, well, boxing, the UFC basically began in Las Vegas,
Yes.
and so that has a tremendous international appeal on the sports side. But when you look at how the entertainment falls out, it's not so much about the numbers or the names of the entertainers. It's the style of music, the style of entertainment. So you can see some of the greatest country western acts in the world in Las Vegas. Appeals to a market segment. Then you've got the millennials and the groups that appeal to them. So that has always been part of Las Vegas. Our entertainment has changed over the years as we've all gotten older.
Yes.
And so, I mean, Elvis, when he first came to Las Vegas at the Frontier, they were trying to figure out, okay, who was this guy? Well, they didn't understand that it was a major shift in entertainment in the country, and there was a whole bunch of us who wanted to go see him, especially when we got over 21, and wanted to see Elvis, and how successful was he when he was at the International. And so same thing is happening now. There's just more entertainment. It's all types of entertainment. That's why when you look at Billboard magazine and things like that, there's like 20 different categories for different types of music, and that's reflected back in Las Vegas. And so when you look at the music side, but there's crossovers too. There, Lady Gaga, I mean, she appeals to all kinds of people, and so that type of entertainment. And so in some of the country western singers and so forth. So it's just it's the mix, and as long as we keep our eyes on what is popular and can bring it to Las Vegas, international I think is going to be even more important. You can see it when we have the Cinco de Mayo days in Vegas, when they bring up some of the Hispanic acts and so forth. So it's going to evolve that way. The new Madison Square Garden sphere over back of the Sands, that's going to be a huge venue. We got the Smith Center. I mean, there's another thing that was added. We have Broadway Place. So there's something, again, why do you go to Las Vegas? There's something for everybody.
And, during the National Finals Rodeo, you drive down the strip because we bring in so many of the people that are a part of the National Finals Rodeo, the visitors. You see the marquees change with our country and western stars. And that's like really catering to a large market, customizing the entertainment for them. What do you think about the fact that only 18,000 people can go into the Thomas and Mack to see the rodeo, but now they have different places where you can see it on big screens and see the music and everything.
Yeah, it's the country western lifestyle. And I was with Herb McDonald when we pitched to get the NFR to Las Vegas. It was in Oklahoma City. I can't go back to Oklahoma City because I went there and took the rodeo away from them along with a lot of other people.
You got a wanted poster for you.
But part of my pitch was that if you bring this rodeo, which we believe is the Super Bowl of rodeos to Las Vegas, you'll be on the front cover of Sports Illustrated. That's what Las Vegas did, and we embraced the country western lifestyle. Sure, there's only 18,000, but the hotels, 18,000 tickets, but the hotels have live broadcasts, so you can go and watch them in the hotels. We got all of these different trade shows, Cowboy Christmas, so we cater to that. The hotels know that they need that during that period of time. We need to have that country western, and so we turn Las Vegas into country western lifestyle.
Yes, you
Place
do.
to play playground, and so it's amazing that we're able to do that. And when the draft is here for the NFL in April,
That's
the
another
same
big
thing,
one.
and
Yes.
when Super Bowl comes here, same thing. And so, but that's thoughtfulness on the part of those people who market in those. So
As a local, do you remember? I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say World Cup. No.
As a local, do you remember the days when we had El Dorado?
I remember El Dorado. Yes,
And
yes.
so it fit us.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
we had it going on
Right.
with the El Dorado.
Right. Right.
What do you remember about that when we were growing up?
I remember sitting on the curb on Fremont Street watching
Correct.
Hopalong Cassidy on his horse, the Lone Ranger.
The real
one,
hop along.
The real Hopalong Cassidy, the original Lone
Yeah, the original,
Ranger.
yeah.
And it was great because it was 4 days. You had one day was the high school bands and the kids parade, and then the floats. All the hotels built floats. They were gorgeous. It was the biggest. It was the biggest float display other than the Rose Bowl west of the Mississippi when we had El Dorado days. And so that was part of our upbringing.
Yes.
Remember that this was a stopover for the people that, or for the trains to get water, and also cowboys moving cattle and so forth and different things. So we have that western flavor, and so we still have it. NFR is just another extension of it in another way, and El Dorado was really, the genesis of that for us.
I'm going to ask you a rhetorical question. Do you think the Nationals Finals Rodeo will go back to Oklahoma?
I can say no because they still haven't built that arena that they promised them when we went after them years ago. So they never built the arena. Two things happened. They didn't build the arena. They promised them that. They didn't build that. And then the other thing was that things didn't stay open 24 hours like they did in Las Vegas. So when the rodeo was over, the Cowboys wanted to go have a good time, or somebody wanted to go have dinner, and it was available in Las Vegas. So.
All of the variety and
Right.
experiences
Right.
in Vegas.
At the end of the day, they're business people, and they know where all the benefits are, right here.
Right.
The money, everything.
Right. Yep. Can do. This is a can do community.
Rossi was going to just not change anything, but you talked about domestic competition. There's two places that come to my mind: Chicago, Orlando. Who's number one?
Las Vegas.
I want that settled.
He didn't stutter.
I want that.
It's Las
No.
Vegas. Yeah, it is Las Vegas.
There you
Yeah.
go. Okay.
Always will be.
But now, when you talk about, because I was talking about this, domestic competition, what about international competition? We're not competing with Germany, Brazil, Spain, are we?
Yes, we are, because
How?
we're competing with the person who lives in Germany who goes to Spain for a vacation or a convention that's international that can go to one of those cities. Somebody living in Tokyo maybe want to go to someplace out in the Far East instead of coming to Las Vegas. So that is competition.
Good.
On the convention side, I always tell people this: we don't own those conventions. They're not always going to be in Las Vegas. We borrow those conventions with other cities. In fact, there have been times when there's been conventions, Home Builders being one, that went to Orlando for 3 years, and then, or 2 years, 3 years, and then came to Las Vegas. And so you have to remember that when you take care of them as customers. But anybody who takes a trip, a vacation, any place in the world is a potential customer, and we're competing with those other places that they can go to. So we're hoping that sometime in their lifetime, they want to come to Las Vegas, because we need to fill those rooms every 3.5 days.
Exactly.
Just remember, what you have to do is that every 3.5 days, you need to move Milwaukee, Wisconsin to Las Vegas, and turn them over every 3.5 days.
Amen.
So that's what we need to have.
There you go.
So it's really from a science to an art form. That's what Vegas is all about. You start off with all those numbers that you talked about, all of that research that you talked about, but no one does it better than us when it comes to making it hospitality an art form. You know, for the masses of people to get that return business, that is art and science.
Right.
But I think that you, sir, epitomizes that type of leadership that went from all of these different nuances. Speaking of nuances, can you remember, and I know you do, a few nuances before we got to what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, and also on the flip side of that, also the reason why we use those nuances?
Well, one time we were the American Way to Play, and those were those were the Reagan years in the White House. So that was one. Come out and visit the sun was one back in the 50s. But they were kind of just slogans. I think that's what they really were. They were slogans, but they were built on, and was always identifying what was known in Las Vegas itself, because you couldn't advertise gambling. Gaming wasn't allowed,
Right.
in those days, and it's limited even today. But you needed to have that, and we had a couple of alliterations of how we got to what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. We were going after kind of an offbeat, fun time of showing a commercial without showing Las Vegas. We would go to other places and have people talk about Las Vegas and why they were going to Las Vegas, and so that was the thing. Imagine walking into Steve Wynn and saying, "Guess what? We are embarking on this new campaign called Las Vegas." What happens in Las Vegas and stays in Las Vegas, and some of the commercials won't even be in Las Vegas. And he looked at us and he said, "Well, hope you guys know what you're doing."
Yeah, you did.
And we did, but he understood. I mean, because Steve was a fantastic guy, super intelligent, part of the success stories of Las Vegas.
Absolutely.
So that was kind of what we were trying to achieve, and we finally did. And we also were able to get the hotel guys the same way. This is, again, because they're, one time we did a film on Las Vegas, and this was right after Star Wars had opened up.
Mm-hmm.
And so they wanted us to make sure that we showed every marquee in the film for Las Vegas. Well, if you did that, most of the film would have just been a film of marquees. And so what we did was that scene in the beginning of Star Wars where read the text from the beginning of the book, chapter 6. It didn't begin in chapter 1, but chapter 6. We did that same thing, but with the hotel marquee names, so they got their name in front of the customer. So you have to kind of think out of the box once in a while to do that, but you can overwhelm your message. You got to keep your message very focused, and so you don't confuse the message that you're trying to deliver.
Rossi, under your leadership, I think they threw the box away. They didn't think outside of the box; they threw it away, and that's the beauty of Las Vegas, being able to cater to a domestic and an international marketplace and get return business and grow that business on top of it. Where do you see us going in the future? And don't tell me you're retired. A guy like you never retire. But where do you think we're gonna go? Say 15 years, 20 years from now. I know that you've thought about it. I know that you probably were part of planning some of this. But what do you think we'll be?
Well, first of all, people are not going to change that much. People want to have a vacation. They want to escape. They want to get away. 15, 20, 25 years from now, the same thing will be happening. How people meet and have a convention will probably change with technology. Technology is going to impact everything that we do. You can see that right now. We're already in the hotels preparing for that. You can see the technology in the casinos. You can see the technology in the slot play and so forth. So that will be, and things that can be offered to the customer. But as long as we keep our eye on satisfying the needs of the customer when they want to go someplace to have a great time, we'll be okay. You may have to adjust how you market, which has already happened with the internet and social media, how you communicate with your customer. So that's going on. That'll be even more exciting, I think, in the future, because you see how things have changed in the last 15 years. The next 15 years, triple that, because that technology leap is going to be so great, it's going to impact our lives completely. I think we will probably have more leisure time, which means more time to travel. I think there'll be a byproduct of the meetings and conventions where you will be a combination of the Zooming experience, so to speak, but also the person to person, because business still is conducted person to person. You need to look at the person in the eye and shake their hand. You need to see and touch and feel the product of whatever it is. And so some of those things will stay the same, but there'll be an evolution in travel. It won't just be Las Vegas. And I'm sure that this destination will stay in front of that technology move and make sure that we stay in front of the crowd.
And we're all about being number one, aren't we?
Number one.
All right.
Well, you mentioned Steve Wynn, nice fellow that you met. Who were the other iconic people? Did you ever meet Kirk Kerkorian, who is my number one guy?
Met Kirk Kerkorian over the years. Burton Cohen from
Sam
Desert
Boyd,
Inn, Sam Boyd, Jack Entrada from the Sands. I mean, you were around those people because it was a small town.
Yeah.
And so you were
How
able
about
to.
Benny
Benny Binion, yes, the Binion family, the Gahn family. Jackie
Boyds.
Gahn, Michael.
Let's see,
Gahn,
Del Webb. Now,
Boyds.
Del Webb.
Del Webb.
That's
yes.
who I work with.
Yeah, Del Webb, and they were great operators. John Romero, who was one of the deans of PR in the 60s and 70s. He was also, in fact, he was a national handball champion for years. John was, but there were people who really, and they were approachable. That was the thing that made it so neat, is because they were approachable people and someone you could talk to and you were in meetings with them, when there were discussions about what to do, and when the first gas thing hit, we had this big meeting to try to determine at the Fremont Hotel, which direction should we take, and all the big players were there, and so those are
all the big players were there for October 1.
Mm-hmm.
All the big players were there
Right.
for what happened, with COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's been a group of people like yourself that have steered this phenomena, and I keep saying phenomena, called Las Vegas, into being number one. And it wasn't done, as we mentioned before we came on air, it wasn't done through osmosis. But a lot of people from afar are visitors. That's why we created this show. We wanted people to see that Las Vegas was well thought out, was well researched, and your researching department that was under your auspices. Can you speak to that over at the Convention Authority?
It continues to this day, and it's expanded in number of people and the number of reports and so forth, but it continues. They've expanded to social media research because that's a very important part of it, and they're dedicated to what they do, and they work very closely with the hotel people because they now have research departments, so you have that to work on too, and so they do a great job. One comment I would like to make, though, because we talk about who was involved. If you look at the names of the board members of the Convention Center, Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, from the time it opened in 1959 to today, is a who's who of Las Vegas. The movers and shakers, whether it's in the resort industry, in the political industry, in the business community, have been on that board, and they have been directing that organization for years and years. And without their support, without their direction, without their input, none of us would have been able to do what we do, and they gave us the means to do it. They gave us the the budgets and the direction, and so they all should be complimented too.
Well, and you had to deal with how many? 14? 15? I don't know.
When I first started, it was 7.
Okay, but it's
Now
double.
now it's 14.
Okay, it's 14 people. Those personalities, you're a magician. How you did that, it's incredible.
All about communication and talking to everybody and listening to their viewpoints.
Leaving your ego outside the door.
Right. Right.
How about this picture right here, Rossi?
Yep. Floyd Patterson and Muhammad Ali. Great
Holy
picture.
cow.
Yes.
Let
me see that.
That was
That's too
sort of
bad.
like a
That was-
beatdown right
Yeah,
there.
It was.
I remember that
Yep,
fight.
that's when he hurt it. When Patterson hurt his back in the fight. I was at that fight. My dad used to be able to get me tickets, and so I think I was like in 7th or 8th grade. But that was Patterson had the bad. He got hurt by Clay. Clay just whooped him.
That's
Yeah,
that,
he
that,
punished him. Yeah, it was.
You know that laying leather on people. It's got it's a tough way to make a
Right.
dollar. You
Right.
know,
It's-
and I know you saw Ali do a lot of running and not running, but well, actually it was running
Working, yeah.
in the ring. You know, he
Yeah,
outran
yeah.
everybody.
He sure-
and he would
yeah.
go in
The
and
shuffle.
punish them and
Yeah.
get out of there. You know.
Like, the fight game is still the best as far as I'm concerned. I'm not a UFC fan. I'm sorry. Just, that's what we need to bring back big time.
Yeah, they're
That's
slow.
an
Yeah, they're
opinion.
yeah, they're more television coverage and that, and we're starting to see more
Good.
championship fights. So that's
That's
good
nice.
for the destination.
Yeah.
Out of all the sports that you've gone to here in Las Vegas, I want you to think of one event that got your attention, that made you excited.
Sports event.
I know you've been to all of them. That's a tough question.
That's a tough
That's a
question.
tough
It's got to be a
Yeah.
fight game. No.
Yeah, well, many
Beatles?
many
Oh, yeah.
fights. Well, that wasn't a fight.
Okay,
right?
that's true.
That wasn't
But
a
I'm
fight.
saying-
But many fights. I got to see a lot of the great fighters of the 60s and 50s, 60s, and 70s. So many fights. The first national finals rodeo week we had, that was over the
one.
top. So those have been the NASCAR, getting to be right there on the finish line at the NASCAR race. I mean, there's just so many, and they're different experiences. But it's it's in your hometown.
Rossi, are you thinking, or have you written a book about your life and all the things that you've accomplished? I know you're not the type of person that's gonna brag about it. It's just if you did, you wouldn't stop because
Really,
there's so many different
great.
things that you've been a part
Right,
of that,
right.
that really made this town what it is today. And I know you as a friend for almost 50 years,
Right.
and I've always been in the wings saying, man, what will Rossi and the rest of the guys think of, man?
We got to
This
get
is-
an agent.
Well,
Rick,
I
you have one.
well, my daughter Kathy, who
Yes.
is a English lit teacher at
Okay.
Bishop Gorman, has got me going on doing an outline for a book about a year ago. So I'm in the process of, and she's kind of helping me through that. So
This could be an announcement here.
but,
of some
it
sort.
could be,
Yes.
but it's not an easy thing to do.
What would
because
be your title, or you haven't thought?
I haven't gotten that far yet, but
that's-
but just trying to remember things and do some stuff. And she gave me some. She continues to give me some input and stuff like that.
I want
so.
you to know I was at one of the Beatles shows that we talked about earlier. I went there with Our Lady of Las Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
They took the whole, the whole class there,
Mm-hmm.
and all I heard was a bunch of screaming. I
Right.
didn't even know where I was going.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
to see the Beatles, I said, "What are the Beatles?"
Mm-hmm.
But I saw them on stage, but I couldn't hear
Right.
not a word coming
Right.
out. I just heard a bunch of people screaming. But I look back in retrospect and I said, "Man, I was there.
You were there,
I was there, and you were there twice.
right? Yeah,
Right.
twice. Yep,
It was
Pretty incredible.
it was.
well,
Yep.
Dr. Peacock, is there any?
Oh, no, we need to schedule a follow-up meeting here, another one of these sessions with
Okay,
you, Rossi.
if you
dude,
would like.
this is just too
No,
much to let go.
We got to get an elevator to get him here. Now.
Well, we'll have to, we'll do it at,
We'll do it. We'll come to you,
Okay,
Rossi.
we'll work it out.
Well, because there's so much to talk about, and we're so honored that you would
Yes,
take the time
without
out
question.
for us, two old professors of hospitality that want to look at Vegas in a more
Yeah.
academic way.
Right,
It's
yeah.
like,
But-
you're one of our icons.
But just
I'm serious. That is the truth.
yeah, but
Yes.
both of you need to remember that both of you are the reasons why UNLV's hospitality school is #1 in the world, because it is at the center of the #1 destination, and you have the
yes.
opportunity to have this great classroom experience for these students. And hats off to you guys.
We had the campus in Singapore for 6 years. We helped open the Marina Bay Sands. The campus, UNLV did.
See,
No.
now see, you see the magic of Rossi. Now we're here talking about all of the things that he's done. Now he's going to flip the script and give.
I
us-
like that. Continue on,
That's
sir.
that's the chemistry that got all of those guys working together.
You
with
did.
That's
You
their
did.
right.
personality.
But it is why UNLV's #1. So
Yes,
we appreciate it.
Oh, God, yes.
If you've enjoyed everything that you've seen here today and learned something, please hit like and subscribe to Las Vegas Hospitality Evolution. It is indeed our pleasure that we've had this iconic individual, which I can say is my friend for all of our lives, to have been the catalyst to a lot of the change and evolution in Vegas. So thank you very much.
Thank
Rossi.
you.
thank you very much
Awesome.
too.
Yeah.
Appreciate the
Okay.
opportunity.
All right.